Well, it's been a quiet week here in Lake Scabagon, my hometown. This week, the Squids work through several voicemails from mysterious anonymous callers. They sit down for a conversation with Jason from Unoriginal Vinyl about AR labels, how they choose music, bring your dad to school events, clown core, and of course, mute math.
Do we really have 4 of these?
Yeah, there's actually 4 voicemails.
We're popular.
How
There's
about
actually
that?
4, and I'm going to be recording one as we listen to them.
Yes.
Oh, look, this is like Podception. I love it.
Oh, that's your thing right there. He's going to Mystery Science Theater this, Kevin. He's going to comment on the voicemail as we listen to the voicemail to make it into a voicemail.
I like this.
Hang on. I may actually do this. It's not
Okay.
just a funny concept. It's the way things work.
This can be the Amish friendship bread of voicemails. We just
That's
that
right,
original just
Yeah.
stays in the background and we keep
The
adding
Tootsie Roll.
layers.
Yep. What was it? 985-28
Yep.
SQUID.
Get Tammy up here. She'll know.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, it's the Coog. What's up, Coog? How are you? Are you having a good day? How's community college? Have an enjoyable time completing your assignments on time, and say hi to the Squids for me. Bye.
See, folks,
go.
it's that easy
good
to leave
one.
a voicemail at 985-28 Squid.
All I had to do was spell squid on my numeric keypad.
But if you go to our social media, it's also written out right there for you.
It's even easier. Even
Hey
easier.
guys, we got another voicemail.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Let's listen to it. Can you play it?
Well, do we want to start with the most recent?
I think we should.
Yes, I think we do.
Requires our immediate attention.
What's up, Coog? How are you? Are you having a good day? How's community college? Have an enjoyable time completing your assignments on time, and say hi to the Squids for me. Bye.
Who was that?
They didn't leave their name and number at the end of the message so we could return their call. But
It's not very important. I think the sentiment and the connection with the listener is the important thing.
I think more people should just leave encouragement for the Coug when the inspiration
absolutely.
strikes.
Yeah.
You know
You can
what?
do it. Hang
You
in
can
there.
do it. Hang in there.
Exactly.
Squids, what's up? It is Ert. I am currently listening to episode 19, where you were discussing crowd surfing and taking people to the back. That was, in fact, Drug Church's set, and they were referencing to the luchador, the guy dressed up as the luchador. So I just figured I'd drop that one. Yeah. Y'all carry on. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ert. Got to
Thank
say,
you.
the first word out of Ert's mouth, I was so convinced it was Pete. Like he had the same
I thought so
intonation.
too.
It was very much squid.
Squids! Yeah, it was definitely me.
yeah.
Yeah, Ert and
thought the same.
we're essentially the same person, except for I'm still gunning for those socks.
Yeah.
If I hadn't seen you together, I would think you were masquerading as 2 separate people.
That's
Yeah,
right.
well, I could think of worse people to masquerade as. I'm honored to be in the same sentence.
He was. Well, I don't know if that's a fact check or a fact addition. I think that might have been a fact addition. Filled in the details.
I mean, I know they also did crowd surf people back at other sets too.
That's what I was thinking.
Yep.
That I observed it during a different set, but
Yeah, and that specific one that we referenced where they said, get this guy out of the shed.
Oh, okay.
was the one that Ert was telling us
get
about.
this guy out
Got
of
it. Got it. Yep.
And it was the guy in the luchador mask, which I think there were more than one.
Well, thank you, Ert, for calling.
Hi there, this is Anna Kipps calling, short-time listener, second-time caller. I enjoyed the talk in one of the last episodes that you guys had about your lip-syncing or interpretive dance and talent shows and stuff, and I had a story that I felt like was kind of relevant. So I was homeschooled.
Yay!
And I wasn't completely antisocial, though. We went to a homeschool group where we socialized with other children, and once a year we would have a talent show for the homeschool group. And of course, we had to perform in that every year. So I was a ballerina. I did ballet all the way from age 6 until age 18. And basically every year I would choreograph some sort of ballet dance. So
Me
one
too.
year when I was 15 or 16, I was becoming more punk rock, of course, and I choreographed a dance to Dandelions by Five Iron Frenzy. I had a sky blue leotard with a sky blue skirt attached to it. I cut out dandelion shapes from yellow and green felt, and I sewed it on the front, so I was on theme. And I don't remember the dance moves or anything like that, but it is one of the only performances I remember doing. And the interesting thing about it was after it was over, one of the moms, like lady in her 40s, was so impacted by this song. It became like the most important song to her in her life. She thanked me for years afterwards of introducing her to Five Iron Frenzy and Dandelions. And I don't blame her because Dandelions is definitely top 3 Five Iron for me as well.
Sure.
But that was the kind of kid I was, and I just thought it would be fun to share that story. Thanks, y'all. Have fun.
That's great.
That
That's
is
so good.
awesome.
Excellent story.
That
All
begs
the
the question.
homeschoolers can feel free to call in.
Yeah, and is there any video of this performance? Because we all need to be moved.
That is a valid question about whether, does anyone have, first of all, Anna, do you have video of this? Because it would be nice to see. If it's on an old VHS tape, just mail it to me and we'll digitize it for you. If
good to
not,
know.
if you
I have
have
a
it
few of
digitally
those.
already, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how to use Media Mail?
Sure, always.
Okay, cool. We're good. That's the cheapest way to do it.
All right.
And then my services are extremely affordable.
Thank you. Yeah, my Avalon Testify to Love human video is on a VHS tape somewhere.
There we go. Yeah. Do you guys remember Bullfrogs and No, not Bullfrogs and
Yeah.
Butterflies, but also the Music
Yeah.
Machine?
Yes.
And do you remember there was the song with the snail? It's called Herbert. The chorus was "Have patience,
Oh, have patience.
don't be in
Yeah,
such a hurry." So,
Yep.
as you know, I have a low voice, and my voice dropped before high school.
Oh,
So
awesome.
my church had a high school talent show where everybody contributed something, and for mine, I got a pianist to play the track, and I sang that song.
Awesome. Is
I'll
there
share a
video
link.
of that?
Yeah,
Yes,
I have that. It's been digitized.
Oh, perfect.
I think you're just
Perfect.
adding to the Pickle Home Companion YouTube channel is what's
Oh
happening.
my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it strikes me that we could probably, there are enough people out there. My understanding is that there are at least 4 listeners, right? Hello, hello,
at least.
hello, and hello. And I think that all of you should.
We'll read your names individually at the end.
That's right. All of you should send us something for a Pickle Home Companion digital talent show. If we can collate
Yes.
all of this stuff together.
That's a
I think we
brilliant
can get
idea.
all of our listeners to contribute. Here, show us something of your talent. If it is something that is historic, if this is from the VHS era, so much the better. If this is something that you can do now, is it a human trick? Do you know how to do a thing that is fascinating?
So not David Letterman's stupid human tricks, but
Well, basically, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
All right. So Dick,
Are you a
Dick,
puppeteer? Yeah. Can you?
The artist
you
gets
know,
to decide what's talent, I think.
so
He's
so
putting a call out.
So Dick
Yeah.
brought us his peculiar. What's another word for human?
people.
Brock. Oh,
Person.
sure. I was thinking of like you have a.
Dick brought
You're
us
the
his
one with
peculiar people show. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
They are peculiar people. Mute Mouth Corner.
That's right. Yeah.
No, I dig that. I like that. Well, I'm writing
This
that
is
down.
a really good idea. Just
Yeah.
old childhood performances need to be shared with the world. At least our little world.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. And lastly, Anna, would you like to be a guest on the show? I think it strikes me that
Yeah.
Anna might enjoy living in Lake Scabagon at some point.
I
Oh,
agree.
we'd love to have her as a resident for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you would like to be, you can call his phone number and let us know.
What's
of your
that phone number again?
intentions. Can you guys? It's 1 Kevin. What's our number?
Starts with a 9.
You don't know it yet?
After that, there's an 8. Is there a 9er in there?
985-28 squid
There it is.
or 985-287-7843.
Call us. Tell us you want to be on the Pickle Home
Oh, I
Companion.
can see it on your Instagram.
Yeah, I'm
Nice.
sure all the listeners can too right now.
Yeah.
If they're not looking at their Instagram right now, I'm surprised.
That's not just my
Yes.
Instagram. That's our Instagram.
That's true. It belongs to all of us.
Yep. But speaking of people who want to be on this show, I think you need to
Uh-huh.
play voicemail number 3.
Okay.
Great segue.
That was very good.
Here's my message for the squids. These friggin' guys try and do all this fact checking, and I'm just a podcaster trying to find my way in this world, and these guys are fact checking and doing all this nonsense, and ruining my reputation of being slightly accurate to less than slightly accurate. So I forget the main reason I called. I'll probably call back and rant about that. So I'm going to call back when I remember what I actually called to rant about.
That sounds like a roofer to me.
I love that he doesn't identify himself, so I'm just going to go by saying, I don't know who you are.
Who needs to? Exactly. Yeah, we can't respond to that sort of complaint. We won't take that sort of abuse.
Who is this anonymous critic?
I think you need to man up. Hey there, cowboy. You need to man up and tell us who you are.
Oh, goodness.
Put a name on that voicemail.
So that's the lesson for everyone else. Yeah, unless you want to raise our ire, please identify yourself at some point in your voicemail.
I'm irate right now, and don't forget that Petey and Kevin can do no wrong. Okay.
You ever seen Petey Hutchie when he's upset? You get an eyeful right now.
This is a low light. I'm throwing everything.
Stay in the chair, Pete. Stay in the chair.
Oh man, you need some gaffer's tape around those headphones to keep them on your head.
Math corner. I'm doing fine.
That's right.
Guys.
Yeah,
everything's okay. So,
well, I'm glad to hear it. See, this could all have been averted by a simple identification. Just an air check. Who are you?
Did he call back?
Well, we do have one more voicemail.
We have one more voicemail.
All right, let's
invite
do
a guest in? Because Jason's waiting.
Why not?
Well, should we play the one last voicemail?
We'll play the one last voicemail.
And then we'll
Okay.
Yeah, so I remember what I was calling about. It seems like these squids are saying that there might be some Canadian influence here in Michigan. And as an avid listener to the show, I just want to completely debunk that. Other than hockey being a big sport here in Michigan, as well as anything Labatt beers, Canadian Club whiskey is a good cheap whiskey up here. Other than that, that is where it ends. There is no like food cuisine doesn't come down here. Like we don't do like poutine. We're not into the maple syrup culture. That's kind of probably more like Vermont, New Hampshire.
That's true.
So yeah, man, like don't accuse us of being Canadian. We're not that nice. Canadians are ridiculously nice and all that stuff, and we're not. So stop. I think Minnesota is a lot like Canada, but not Wisconsin, I don't think, and not Michigan. So stop accusing us. Squids, piece of crap. Get some lives.
Disabused of the notion through verbal.
Who the hell was that?
Even though
we'll never know. There's no way for us to say. There's no way for us to find out. Canada, honestly, I think we know that the cultural jet stream touches down towards Minnesota and curves up sharply before Detroit.
I'm not as mad. I'm not as mad now, guys. That was better.
This is honestly all. I can take it. I know when I've erred. I know when I've been wrong, and I can apologize. It takes a big man to apologize.
Right.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, welcome.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Pleasure to see you. Doing okay.
Back at y'all.
Let me introduce our guest. Jason is perhaps best known as the lead singer of Drawn Onward, a Denver area band. He's also the host of a former sketch comedy show, the co-host of whom he is married to, I believe. He also dabbles in corporate communications and marketing, and occasionally the collection, enjoyment, and production of vinyl records. He is a dyed-in-the-wool Furnace Fest fan, which is what binds him to the Pickle Brethren. So, Jason, hello. Thank you for joining us.
A pleasure to be here. It's my honor and distinct privilege to spend the evening with you all. Thank you.
Oh. Kind of you. Thanks for joining us. You had indicated in an Instagram chat that we seemed like a good time. Is that what you said? No, somewhere on some bathroom wall it was written. Good time. Log into this Zoom meeting.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really difficult. I can't believe you figured out how to Sharpie a QR code to the Zoom meeting link on a bathroom stall.
Got to say, it's
Kudos to
not
whoever
easy.
figured that out. That's a pretty impressive feat, to be honest with you.
That's our Broctitis.
Force that can't be stopped.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's your brand to figure out how to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where's everybody based again? Remind me. I know Oregon, obviously, but remind me everybody else.
I'm in Massachusetts, so I'm down on Cape Cod.
What is that blender head that you got there? Anyways, go ahead.
I knew you'd be mesmerized.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
We're often mesmerized by his wall, just like we're mesmerized by yours.
Amazing.
I'm from Rhode Island. Yeah.
Rhode Island.
Right outside of Providence, Rhode Island.
Amazing. Okay.
And I'm
Jared?
in North Carolina, south of
Holy,
Raleigh. Yeah.
holy moly.
And
That's
in North Carolina, it's already Christmas.
Yes, right there.
Yeah.
Do they know it's Christmas time at all?
They sure do over there.
Yeah.
And I'm in Colorado, so great. This is
Awesome.
fun. It's like representative of the whole map.
You
Got it.
can't understand how much it means to me to have anyone who is farther east than Cincinnati. It feels great just to have somebody close to my
In a
coast
different time
on
zone
this
than
call.
us.
Me farther west.
West, you're right. Excuse me. Well,
Yes.
it's also east if you go the other way around. But to your point, I think that's how most people would see it.
Just yeah. In fact, is that you move further west, take away any regional sounding dialect and replace it with newscaster sounding voices. That's every male you meet at the further west you go. We just sound like the nightly news.
That's
Devoid
it,
of
yeah.
devoid of any specificity, devoid of any sense of where are these people from. They just sound like generic TV man. That's our thing.
That's spot
We're
on.
the
That
everyman.
is spot on.
Mhm.
I am genuinely a fan of you guys. I think the hang is always great. When I listen to your podcast, it makes me feel like I'm in the room with you. I think it's authentic, which is a big thing for me. Nothing about it feels like it's presented in a fashion that is trying to be something to anybody but for yourselves. And you get to enjoy that when you're a listener. So kudos to you for everything you've done so far.
Yeah, awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank
Yeah, and that's really kind of the goal that we have is just we want it to just be, hey, we're all just hanging out. And when we have guests on, if they're people who've been on a million other podcasts, we don't necessarily want to go down so how'd you get into music? How'd you, like, blah, 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 blah. They want to come on, they want to talk, cartoons, they want to talk, pizza places, that, whatever. Well, it's all good. We just want to hang out and have a good time and give them something different. So
I love it. Yeah. I've been on a few podcasts and there's the ones that seem to be framed up in that way. I'd just rather hang out and goof off. And since we all have probably shared a similar story and upbringing, this is better for me.
Fabulous. I love it.
Welcome to Lake Scott.
yeah. Yes. And happy Failure Puddle Friday to all
That's
who
right.
celebrate.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
suppose it's worth introducing our drinks. I wanted to know that I'm enjoying something you might be familiar with, Jason. This is the Jones cane sugar soda, cream soda. I almost said ice cream soda, but that's different. But this particular one, it features like a fingerboard.
Yep.
2 fingers on the deck, which is fantastic.
Sounds good. Miss it
And
tremendously.
It is
Hey, what else you
possible to open that bottle with just with the hand, but it does hurt a little bit. I will say that.
Yeah.
Okay. What else is everybody got?
So I've got the traditional Failure Puddle, which is sort of our official drink of the show, which is basically store brand generic ginger ale and a Don Q. So no ice.
Fantastic.
That way there's more room for the failure.
Mhm.
And you just kind of you pour the Don Q until you go, oh, whoops, that was a little much.
Amazing.
I
Okay.
got Highlands Cold Mountain. It's a spice winter ale. It's a North Carolina seasonal tradition thing. So Highlands out in Asheville, one of the second oldest brewery in the state, and they've been brewing this beer for, I don't know, 20 plus years. So this time of year it comes out, and it's a little bit different recipe, seasonal.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
And I've got the Jones Orange myself. Yeah. It's great. I especially like it because it's the crowd surfer. I mean, that was pretty cool.
Nice.
You know about those real labels, right? You know what the story is on those? That's AR technology.
Can you refresh us?
So
Yeah.
you can hover your camera over those labels and it will make the picture come to life. You'll actually see the person crowd surfing if you use the Jones Soda app, the Real Label app. The idea that I had for the first Furnace Fest in 2021 to create a scavenger hunt came from my friends at Jones Soda. In fact, looking at those Real Labels, they had just discovered themselves at that time in 2021 AR technology. So instead of having your phone read a QR code and hyperlinking you to a website to buy something, you can view an actual video in real time on the web browser on those Real Labels, and you'll actually see the band playing. You'll see the person crowd surfing on the actual soda bottle. And I thought, why can't we just do that at concert festivals as well? So I put stickers up in AR all over Furnace Fest that first year with a video clue to our whereabouts that people would have to then come find us. And it literally came from that Jones Soda, like me brainstorming with the Jones Soda people at the same time.
That's
That's
incredible.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
very cool.
But it has not been really replicated since. And I think the only downside of doing the AR technology for that first Furnace Fest was realizing that at that time, everything was so new and exciting, and Birmingham didn't have the satellite tower capacity to even like live stream a video set. So if you remember that first year, people were trying to like get onto social media and live stream a He Is Legend set or something, and it was impossible. Everybody would just glitch out like a Mike Tyson fight. And so given that limitation, we sort of went a different direction the following year. And then the following year, just tried to keep on improving on the idea of defying expectations, but also giving people more of a sense of let's get what we came for from the vinyl people and then get out of here and go start seeing the music that we came here to see. I think I listened at length to your Furnace Fest recap where you were talking about waiting in line, sometimes rotations for blindside vinyl and things like that. And by comparison, we tried to make our process year over year improved and as painless as possible for the end user to be able to just like take a QR code home with them and order at their leisure, give them extensions upon extensions to have time to order for themselves or their friends using these OB strips. And I'm sure half the OB strips, if not more, got just tossed in the garbage after people ordered their vinyl records off the QR code, but that's kind of fine. I'm okay with that. For the people who didn't, who have collected sort of a series of 3 records every year, I'm actually really proud of the diversity of titles that we sort of hit everybody with, from all being first time on vinyl, with the exception of Norma Jean, down to the sort of genre jambalaya that also is indicative and representative of Furnace Fest culture. It's like punk rock, and then Dead Poetic, and then The Chariot, and then kind of Stavesacre, all over the place. Embodiment, that record is a super weird record. A lot of those choices either came from the desire to get the band to reunite to play Furnace Fest. So in fact, this year, like the Dogwood playing and the Slick Shoes playing are pitched Furnace Fest to make vinyl for those records preceded their ask of the band and the band saying yes. It was like creating a desire on top of giving the band whatever, 5-10 grand to come out and play and cover their airline expenses. You'll also have this cool interaction with fans where you can sign these vinyl things. And most of the time, Slick Shoes and Dogwood did not understand what they were involved with at all until they got there. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool, man. And then all those records have done really well. I think historically, people really have been fans of keeping those as keepsakes, especially the people who showed up early that first year to get their blue He Is Legend cover out of the first 100 people in line or whatever. It was fun, man.
I've got to imagine there's some satisfaction there for you as a fan and a participant in the scene to kind of nudge some of those things, like you're saying, to kind of make things happen, as it were.
I think so. I think that the hope is always that these bands will look at this experience as holistically more than just whether they're polished musicians anymore or they're in touch with their other band members, but that there's sort of a culture swelling around. I wouldn't even call it nostalgia, because nostalgia would imply that people's hope is that every band looks and sounds like they did in 2003. It's
Which
more
they'd
like,
be sorely disappointed. It's not the case.
no, but it's actually kind of more fun. I was just comparing A being the first time I saw Dogwood is Cornerstone 98. And the self-titled record had just come out. And I was A being last night watching the 98 Cornerstone set that somebody had uploaded to YouTube with the Furnace Fest set, and same exact cast of characters with the exception of Russ, who didn't drum in 98 for some reason. But Jason was there, and Sean O'Donnell and Josh were all there. And it was actually more wholly rewarding to watch just these people aging. I wouldn't call it necessarily gracefully, but we've all kind of had our rough and tumble years, and our age is showing on our faces and the lifelines that we've got all now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm here for it. I'm here for the 2024 of it, or the 20, now of it, instead of just thinking about how the only reason I would go to a festival or buy vinyl is to hope that I can relive old days. That's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Sure.
This would probably be my best opportunity to ask you to kind of give your recap of your perspective, because you've shared this on a couple podcasts. And while I fear to retread ground that's been tread before, I feel like this is the best ground to retread. Is maybe you've said often that there's a big difference between appreciating our history and kind of nostalgia. Can you explain kind of what you've said about that previously?
I definitely lean towards sentimentality, and sentimentality means taking the fullness of one's life experience into the current day friendships and the experiences that we have that are shared, finding common ground with each other that makes us feel like there's somebody out there who makes me feel less alone because they listened to Value Pack once upon a time, or because they know what that Blenderhead poster art or whatever is behind Kevin on his Zoom screen right now. And then people who really desperately wish that they long for days of yore. They wish that they were young again. They wish that the music and the theme were as relevant to their lives as it once was. I'm not really a proponent of that version of celebrating this culture or our shared experiences. I'm much more leaning in towards sentimentally trying to also look at not bringing things to some sort of historical fiction level of appreciation. Like, oh my gosh, everything was just perfect back then. You go back and watch YouTube videos of Cornerstone Dogwood shows that I was at in the front row singing along, and you can see me in those videos singing. And it's embarrassing. And that's cool. Like, that's cool that it was embarrassing, and it's cool that we all don't have to be there anymore. And 14 and awkward and kind of looking over our shoulder, wondering if singing into the microphone with the Dogwood singer made me look cool or not. I couldn't care less about it anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I think Unoriginal Vinyl, if we had a mission statement around that, is just to say, let's collectively appreciate where we're at in the here and now, and think about the way that these stories can be told for future generations, devoid of rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. That was, I think you were on Magnified Pod, and I think you were giving a version of that when you were talking to them. When I was boarding a plane, or I was riding a bus to an airport to go see Five Iron in 2022. And I remember thinking, this guy's right on. This guy that's exactly correct. And there really is kind of it's like the people for whom high school was the best years of their lives, and they're always looking back and they're like, man, the football team was so great and whatnot. And meanwhile, we were getting beat up by the pulling guard, right? And we were saying, like, this isn't very cool at all. And so there's something, like you say, about the totality of the experience. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
Honestly, if you present it to an audience from a more honest point of view, and you approach the artists of the physical media you're working on from that point of view, and you ask them or even direct them explicitly toward talking about things in the here and now instead of something that just happened a long time ago, I think you get a more permanent, sincere ability to tell what the story of this band is and why it's important. You know what I mean? I do this a lot with all the records that I have in my collection and stuff like that. I want to kind of tell a story to my family, my daughter, ultimately about why I own this record. So I'll scribble like a note and timestamp every time I listen to a record, just for that reason, just to be able to say, one day this record will probably likely end up at ARC. And when somebody finds it for $3.99 on vinyl, and it's a 90-pound wuss record, but they get to open it up, and inside there's this little personalized note about a guy who listened to it in 2022.
Right.
And why? And there's a bonkers bananas moment that if you don't listen to the whole record through, don't miss this one little part, because when Jeff Suffering goes to a level 10 on the Queen Maggot song, there's something special to be had about that level of no holds barred. Just,
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's not embarrassed about anything. And wouldn't that be nice if we could all be that unbridled but safely? You know, I like
Right. And just leaving notes on stuff like that is huge. I know I inherited my dad's vinyl collection. He would leave notes on songs he was listening to and what he was feeling in that moment. And I know that meant a lot to me, right? So I'd be listening through and kind of really see what he was thinking when he was listening to that record. And so I've tried to start doing some of that myself. So really cool idea.
Yeah, it's just harder now that my vinyl collection has grown exponentially
Sure.
in the last several years. I've sort of repurposed a 401k plan and a retirement plan into a vinyl collection, which has been strange. But there's also a little bit of kind of satisfaction in knowing that the stuff that I'm doing is kind of limited, or we're working on is limited to a point where as we get older, fewer and fewer people even know what it is. But the people who do know what it is will probably find more and more value in it.
Yeah.
Like literal monetary value in it.
Yeah.
Things stupid like a custom built test pressing with other alternate artwork and stuff. You guys probably saw some of that at Furnace Fest. You'd see a bunch of test press things that I hand numbered and hand wrote covers for at the charity auction. And then there'd be one that was fighting in there that I just decided one day to make a crazy alternate artwork for. And those became really special to people, It was fun.
Yeah. I am curious because you mentioned you've got a collection. How big is your collection? Like, it doesn't have to be the exact number, but kind of what's the general ballpark we're talking about?
Round number would be about
3, 4, 800,
2,500 records, about less, something like that.
There you go.
And
so how do you choose what to listen to? How do you decide what comes to the fore?
Oh, it's easy because there's always music playing in my head. There's music playing in my head at this exact moment. It's the Weepies Say I Am You record. For some reason, that's just sort of rattling through my head right now. But I usually just listen to that impulse. I'm going on a little guys retreat night to Estes Park to the Stanley Hotel on Monday, and I'm making mixed CDs. So the rule of anybody coming to the Estes Park road trip for my local friends is the only way that you can listen to music in our car is by bringing a CD. It can be a mixed CD, it can be a CD booklet, but you can choose the soundtrack of what's playing in the car stereo as long as it's on CD. And so I'm like making mixtapes still on my CD burner in iTunes. That is going to be
solidarity.
Fits the mood, fits the tone, knows what time it is. I always, no matter what, will listen to Unwed Sailors, Faithful Anchor on the way back down the road that snakes through the canyons of Colorado on the way toward Boulder from Estes Park, Colorado. So these things are just automatically programmed into my brain with or without having to think about them.
Right.
How about for you guys? I mean, what makes you decide to pick a record or pick the music you're choosing for the day? I'll throw it back to you.
That's a great question.
Well, I know that my listening is right now because I do this thing where I hold up an album on its anniversary and talk about it briefly on social media. So for me, the calendar has been the thing that's kind of helped me rotate through my collection, because otherwise I've found there's stuff I've had for years that I just don't listen to. And so for me, that's kind of what I've been doing recently. But also sometimes there's just the idea that, I haven't heard this one, or the brain radio is turning this on right now and it's time to hear it for real. That's kind of how I've approached it. What about the rest of you guys?
For me, typically, so like if I'm driving and I'm not listening to podcasts or whatever, and I have music on, or if I'm out, on a walk or a run or whatever, typically, I've got thousands and thousands of stuff, on my phone. I just throw it on shuffle, and then as soon as something comes on that I'm like, ooh, that's the album I'm listening to right now, and then it's switch over to that. So I kind of let it go until something pops up that kind of triggers something that I'm like, this is what I need to listen to right now.
That's fun.
And then other times, there's just those days at work where you're like, I need to listen to the hammering process on my way home, because that was a day.
Yeah, heard that. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, for me, I go in different spurts. The last month or so I've been on a podcast spurt, but I really resonate with what you were saying about making a mix CD. So buddies of mine, when we would go on a road trip, everybody had to bring a mix CD as well. And we would and the great part about some of my circle of friends at that time is they were varied in taste. So you'd always get something new. And the whole idea was to get something brand new I might not have heard or he might not have heard. So for me, I still love making mix CDs, and that's how I curate something. Is I'll look at my vinyl collection and just pick something out if I'm going to listen to vinyl. I'm like, what am I feeling today? I might take three out and then decide which one I'm going to do. But I love looking back on some of those old mix CDs, and I'll still pull those out and put them in my car. I have a whole CD book of just mixes from different points of my life that I'll listen to when I'm driving.
That's amazing. Yeah, my wife and I share that where she's got a whole CD binder in our car and we'll put on just one that she
Yep.
created maybe a long time ago, but I'm always just it's like an enamoring thing all over again. It's like,
Yeah.
man, you have a really good taste in music, lady. I think that's really cool that you picked that song. I wouldn't have picked that, but that's awesome.
Sure. And it's that whole idea of what were you thinking in that moment, and then that opens up conversation to, and especially when my wife and I are on a road trip and we pull out something like that. I would make her a mix CD for every like anniversary or something like that. So we'd go back through and I'd see these songs and like, and it would bring me back to where we were at that time, and it's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
totally.
Yeah, I think mood
And
drives me a lot with at least the vinyl of like if I'm going to listen to something on vinyl, I'm paying attention to it. I'm thinking about it more than my phone, or if it's, so how I'm feeling that day. I also try to cycle through what I've got, like Brock said. And then right now, I have my mom's 45s she gave me, and my mom, music when I was a kid that I attached to my mom is like Southern Gospel, Sandy Patty. Like those are my mom's. And this is not that. This is when my mom was a teenager. So it's like a different
awesome.
version of my mom, I think, in a way, of what
Oh,
I'm,
yeah.
what I'm familiar with. I was a homeschooled by pastor's kid, so like that's my mom in my mind. But these 45s are different. She's got some Motown stuff on there, some Beatles, George Harrison, and so I haven't ever. I've had the case she had them in for I don't know how long ago she gave them to me, 15 years ago. It's kind of been there, and I never took the time because it takes a lot more effort to like flip over one song at a time to listen to a 45. Like it goes by so quick, and then you're like, oh, I gotta go back over there, flip it over, pick the next one. But I've decided in the last week or two to like I'm gonna listen through this whole stack because there's probably 50 of them in there, something like that.
That's cool. Right. I'm excited to hear what surprises you uncover from that.
Yeah, because I do think there's like Afternoon Delight is in there, which like it's your mom. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, I don't know what that meant back. Right. Yeah, like it's like a song I'm aware of, but it's different when it's like
Yeah.
a gift from your parents.
Yeah, I
But yeah.
definitely had at one point like pulled out my dad's records and he had the Squeeze record from 1980 that has the song Pulling Muscles from a Shell, which don't Google it if you don't know what that's about. Man, like, whoa, dad, okay.
Right. But
Learning stuff.
I like that about physical media where you can learn something that's attached to that you just can't, you don't get that anymore from I guess if you make playlists and share those, you could do it that way. And I
Yeah,
make playlists, but it's not the same as somebody's collection.
no,
Right.
and my daughter is now in the fourth grade, and I went last year and sort of did one of those bring your dad to work and let him talk about his business instead of talking about unoriginal vinyl or anything that I do for my real career, which isn't unoriginal vinyl. I just went through with a bunch of third graders the history of physical media. So I brought an Edison cylinder player, and I showed them how to stick the cylinder onto the actual player and turn it, and then step the needle down into
cool.
an actual acetate 78 RPM record, which also I have a player for that's in a miniaturized format all the way up to 8 tracks, cassettes, CDs, back to vinyl. And I kept getting the same question from kids like, hey, but why? Like, why can't you just turn on your phone and play the song you want to hear? And I'm like, let me ask you this, everybody in the third grade, 80 third graders. Have you ever heard of a band that has the name band in the name? Let's use Zach Brown Band. I'm going to hold this record in front of you. Zach Brown Band. Who is in Zach Brown Band? Zach Brown? Good. Good start.
Bingo.
Right. Give that kid a lollipop.
Right.
Now, could there be more people that are part of the band of Zach Brown Band, even though he named it after himself. How would you find out who that is? And everybody kind of just sat there like dumbfounded. And I said, watch this. This is going to be easy. You're never going to believe what's going to happen, but I'm going to turn this record around. And there's 8 members, all with their pictures and their names and the instruments that they all play on the back of the record. This is going to sound crazy, but each one of those people has a very special part in making this music sound as good as it does. If it's a drummer, if it's a fiddle player. And the only way that you get to learn about that, apart from Google or asking Siri, which isn't going to give you all the information you need, it's looking at this thing and asking yourself, I don't even know if I know what a harmonica is, but that guy plays it, so I should look up what a harmonica is. And the way that you get to discover the stories of how these albums are made or the multiple songs they wrote apart from the one you've heard is by holding an album in your hands. And these kids were just like,
mind blown.
That's how
Taylor Swift isn't just Taylor Swift recorded everything on the record. She didn't record the drums. She didn't record the what?
Right.
And so
Not a drummer, surprisingly.
Getting to educate that part is also like, I guess, something that I feel more inclined to the older I get. That's just like the Cars 3 of it all. You know what I mean? Like taking what you learn, taking what you experience, and then turning it into the lessons you can teach the younger people and just say, hey, there's probably a shortcut to discovering your favorite band that you don't have to take the long road now because you have things like the internet. But sometimes the long way around is more fun.
That's how I learned about the keytar, was seeing it on the old Decameron Key records. So
yeah.
Well, and even knowing reading liner notes, knowing producers and record label executives, just because their names showed up over and over. And as a kid, you'd read everybody and read the thanks, and like, okay, Brown Bannister keeps showing up for all these people. Who was that guy?
I know. And in a weird way, Unoriginal Vinyl sort of proposition to the music industry, or even Tooth and Nail, was at the time I was pitching it to everybody, not well received. It was not treated like something that I had any right to do. I was treated like, hey, graphic designers don't get to put their logo on Capital Christian / Universal / Solid State Tooth and Nail released. You don't get to do that. That's not how the game is played. And I just said, it is if you want to start to establish credibility with your audience and get brand recognition behind the quality stuff versus the garbage. And that can be translated across multiple labels and multiple genres of music in such a way that now, similar to reading who Jerry Finn produced all your favorite records, what's the deal with Jerry Finn? Who's this guy? Similarly, like you would hope that Unoriginal Vinyl Robot on the back of whatever weird kind of record you're not expecting. Dude, the record we just announced on Friday lands with my audience like a thud, like a lead balloon. You know what I mean? Because it's America's Got Talent, Nashville pop music, starring 3 siblings who in the hardcore and punk community couldn't be farther away from their reality. But for the people following the plot line and can sort of like thread the needle behind truly we're just fans of music and we want to work with all genres of all types, they might discover that music and they might look at that Unoriginal Vinyl logo on the back of that We 3 record and go, hey, that's actually really cool. Like, what a weird deal. But
I was hoping it was We 3. They're great.
Right? And then some people in the hardcore community be like, hey, maybe I ought to give like 2024 pop music a shot. You know, I've sort of discarded it from my frontal lobes for long enough. Maybe there's some good stuff out there, I guess. I have to acknowledge it. It's not just about my favorite genre from 2013, easy core music. You know what I mean?
Right. I watched that season of America's Got Talent. My eyes lit up for when you said the trio of siblings, and so that's great. I'll be getting that record.
Dude, we had so much fun working with them too, and they were not used to working with our caliber of taking them through how their idea is a bad idea. Like, this is the cover we want. You think it's the cover you want, but it's not going to be a great cover. Your band name is We 3, and you've got 2 people on the album cover.
Right.
What are you doing? Oh, I never thought about that. Oh, that's cool. Sounds like you guys know what you're talking about. Let's keep talking through this thing. So There's been a lot of stories like that with the people outside of the hardcore community who are like by referral from another hardcore band. And so the people that come to us completely out of the blue that are the most fun to work with.
That's what I was curious about. Is at this point, are you going to the artist, or are they more coming to you with these projects? What drives most of that?
Definitely more people coming to us, I would say,
Yeah.
at this point. Management companies, labels, and friends of friends who are like, we tried knocking down the door of Equal Vision Record a bunch of times, letting them know about our services and what we do, but it ended up being Adam, the drummer of Hopesfall, who's been on this journey with us as an Instagram vinyl collector dude since 2014, who was like, all right, Equal Vision's not delivering on my expectations, and I get one shot to do an anniversary edition of my record the right way. I'll just call the guys that I trust and tell them, you've got to let them do their thing that they do with the repackaging, the reissue, and stuff like that, and give them whatever they want. And Adam told that to Equal Vision, which was great. So it's kind of a combination of things right now, but we're always out there kind of at shows anyways. We're always in the scene doing things, mingling with different genres of people and going to wild stuff all the time like you guys all are. It's not like hardcore is the only genre that matters or ska music's the only genre that matters. We're all kind of there going, hey, I learned something new today about these two genres now blending together to create, dubstep, hip hop, whatever. Like, oh, that's a weird thing. I didn't think it would come together. Or a clowncore. I didn't see clowncore coming. Ever.
No one ever sees clowncore coming.
No,
right.
That's how they like it.
They all just come out of that one car.
And that's how they get you.
Dude, have you seen the clowncore stuff? It's amazing.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's two dudes that are dressed like in clown masks, and they're the most talented musicians you've ever heard in your life, and they're playing like free solo jazz the whole time. It's insane.
It's worth checking out.
So we live and breathe, like me and Bruno and the other guys who are doing the social media, Greg Schock and Tim West and all these cats. Like, dude, we're just living and breathing music anyways, and this stupid vinyl thing has just become like an extension of our wild sort of brains about all of it, about the music scene today being as exciting as it was back then. Whenever back then was, whenever people define back then as, I don't care. It's still happening today. And so you needed to only have put yourself in the immediate strike zone or ground zero of Furnace Fest this last year at any band other than a band that was 20 years old to discover that that's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to go over and check that out because that sounds dangerous. I'm going to go look at it.
Stuff's still happening. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. It's fun. Anyway.
I'm curious. The recent Indie Vision interview was great. Really appreciated. That was super long form, fun to read. I was catching up on it because all of my brethren had already read the article, and I was the last one that had not. So I finally sat down. I don't get a lot of chances to read things unless it's for work. So
I don't read things, and that was my first reading since Are You My Mother? So,
and you still got it before me, which is great. No, the thing I was going to ask, the thing that stuck out to us was what Pete and I occasionally will pan to one side of this podcast. It's mixed in stereo occasionally when it's a niche interest that the other two hosts don't particularly care about. And so one thing that was mentioned in the interview was what's a wild project you'd like to do? And we have this thing we call the Mute Math Corner, where we talk about mute math when we feel like it. Earthsuit was one of the spitball names that came out, I think, that you provided in that interview. So I'm curious. What's the you got yours, Pete? There we go.
Oh man, I missed the drop. I want that thing so bad, but I know their manager, so I think it might happen eventually. But Peculiar People. Peculiar People off that EP is like the best song ever.
Best song ever.
So amazing.
Yes,
I saw them right when that came out. So before the self-titled record came out, right when the EP came out, right when it was like Matt Carney and Mute Math on that tour, right when the EP came out, and I was like, I saw it in Boulder. And it was just so surprising to me to watch the humor that was laid underneath what was a very artistic, serious presentation of Darren with his taped up headphones on his head, and just tenacity with which he was bleeding all over the drum set. And you're just like, To the untrained eye, that looked like a very confrontational, almost like hardcore level set. But to guys like me who've been around it just a minute, even at that time, I was like, there's so much humor underneath all of this.
Yeah.
There's so much just showmanship and flim flam about this whole setup. I know what's going on, and I'm here for all of it. It's great. And then they,
Yeah.
right shortly after, they probably already had recorded, but when they did the typical video backwards, I was like, yeah, okay, so that's proof. Like, that's what you're doing. You're just here to do the okay go thing. And in fact, I think they've kind of manifested that in the long form for a lot of years. Just lesser known.
And it was wild for me because my other love is also Switch, but the fact that John Foreman co-wrote Peculiar People, I was already mind blown. So it just that steered me to Mute Math originally, and then from there it was.
Oh, dude, you can just immediately imagine the synchronicity of those two people sitting around listening to the Police record and going, "Hey, how about if we just do this? Let's just do the Police thing and write a song together." And that took all of probably 2 hours for them to get it, but it's like a timeless piece of music for me. And I can't wait to find a way to get that Reset EP. It'll happen eventually, but that thing's sick, man. You're still lucky you got that. And I hate the way that they drop it every now and again infrequently, but I also completely understand the instinct.
I was in Amish country in Pennsylvania with my mom, and she was telling me a long story, and I saw the text from the rest of the guys. I said, "Mom, just give me one quick second. I will listen to any other story you want, but I need to order this vinyl." she understood, and she knew what she was getting into, and I grabbed it quick.
It does. To get back to your question, Brock, it does open up this idea of in my personal interests, have to also acknowledge that there is a very, very important piece of commerce that is involved in all of the decisions that we're making strategically to release things, like everything. Nothing is accidental in my universe, though it feels spontaneous or a little bit kind of like even the whole entire concept of doing a super long form written interview on a website that is not frequently trafficked, but for people in the know and from the scene will absolutely instantly recognize, and hiding in the middle of it a cachet of very exciting news about releases. In the middle of all of it, I literally set up the entire thesis of Unoriginal Vinyl only to then go and execute that thesis within the exact interview I'm talking about so that people would start viral talking about this box set and the one image we hit in the middle of it. It's just a game. Like, the whole thing was just gamesmanship with the audience and having fun. And to think about doing that requires a lot of mental energy and a lot of support from the label to be able to clear things like those crazy ideas. But when you don't have the support of the artist, and when you don't have a Josh Goggin giving his blessing on Ludacris, or when you don't have Mute Math giving their blessing on Earthsuit or something like that, and they're not standing behind it in solidarity saying, "We get why you want to hear this on vinyl. It's cool. We'd love to have it exist probably too. Let's just do it, and we'll support it maybe with a small mention." It makes it really hard for me to go chase those things because, economically speaking, it's like for Tooth and Nail to put out an Earthsuit record doesn't make entire sense for other people to fund and put it out without the band's support, or with the band even coming back to me and saying, "We've never heard of Parting Gift Records out of Dallas. Why would they want to put out an Earthsuit record? What are you talking about? Small, medium, large, XL. Let's look at their roster of releases lately. Maybe adjacent in Reliant Kville, but not at all adjacent in Stephen Curtis Chapmanville. Don't love that." You got to just think about how to triple down on your selling of the product in order to just get through 500 copies. Most of the time, these licensing projects from Capital Christian, who owns Earthsuit, they require a minimum of 1,000 units, a commitment of 1,000 units. And so if we're ever doing a pressing of 500 units for Furnace Fest and then spending marketing money toward making Adobe strips on top of that and everything like that, we probably had to license it higher numbers than that anyways. Like, we probably had to go and license the full amount so we don't waste the licensee's time, meaning Universal or Capital Christian. Or we just backed everything. We'll license 7 titles at a time and say, yeah, it's a pain in the neck to have to do 7 different pieces of paperwork, but at least you're getting 3,000 units out of it,
Right.
3,500 units out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
So just go out there out of left field and hit Earthsuit with a cool reissue, even with my audience, even with maybe a label who would support it financially. There's just a whole nother piece out there where it's like you're talking about fractions upon fractions upon fractions of people who would even know about it, which is why I kind of mentioned Katy Perry jokingly in the interview.
Oh, yeah.
Out the Katy Perry record, at least then you would get some sort of like Hard Times News parody about
Right.
like you get a mention
Right.
there, or the Onion would look at like, oh, Katy Perry or vinyl is at an all-time low with this read, and they would mean it. They would mean it, but it would be funny, and we'd get some probably notoriety out of it. So I'm not just interested in doing things for notoriety reasons. I'm more interested in doing things for like connecting with fans. And I don't know that there are enough Mute Math fans in the world who would really appreciate the Earthsuit reissue. Maybe not.
I wish I could help you find them. I don't know if I could or not, but it does make sense. You got to come at it from a very realistic perspective and say, how does this make sense for everybody?
I hate to say it. It's so like, yeah, dude, it's boring and economical reasons that will do the things that we'll do. You know what I mean? Like,
well, challenge accepted.
So Pete's buying 500 copies. Okay.
Change.org petition. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah,
we got our group chat going off those little nuggets you dropped in there. I think that kept us occupied for an afternoon or something, right?
That's kind of the goal, and it's kind of like you plant a seed that you hopefully can germinate over the next 3 or 4 weeks while the record is finishing, to make sure that it's actually going to finish to the quality standards you're hoping for. And I think this box set will be really special for fans. But you have to realize that out of those 5 titles, one of them would probably sell all 500 units instantly. The rest of them would not, and they would be a massive liability to the label or the licensing.
Sure.
And so you have to think about the way that you can position all of it in terms of legacy and storytelling. And I had to do a lot of convincing for each of the artists, because the artists themselves, some of them don't care. Like I asked Billy Power and I asked Brian from The Blamed about writing retrospective essays for their own albums. And do you know what they said to me? They said, no one cares about that stuff. I don't care about it. They don't care about it. Nobody wants to hear from me about that stuff. So I said, great. Be that as it may, how about Billy Power? You write about the Blamed record. You write about Brian Gray and how much his legacy has meant to you in your life as a friend. Yeah. And maybe when you hear his music, you get excited about something. Why don't you write the Blamed essay, and I'm going to have Brian come over the top and write the Blenderhead essay. You guys switch places and talk about each other. It's a lot easier to compliment a friend than it is to compliment yourself.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and to be grateful for a friend, right? Because that was one of the framing of gratefulness, is what you were saying. I think is kind of the foundation of it all, right? As opposed to commiserating about terrible tour stories or something,
or just like, I got screwed on my contract. I got
right. I could write a whole essay about that.
Well, I think
not compelling, yeah.
Right. Because we always circle back to Furnace Fest, but that's what that gathering once a year has demonstrated is, okay, a lot of these bands aren't Taylor Swift as far as broad audience and reach, but in that group, like it demonstrates to a lot of these older bands, I think, who come back like, oh, this had lasting meaning to these individuals who still think fondly of you, will show up, appreciate your art, appreciate who you are. And because they say that, I feel like so many interviews where the artist is like, no one cares. Why would we do that? Well, I just saw Derek Webb, and he said when they pitched re-recording the Caedmon's Call first one, that all the members said, who would care? And I was like, that somehow blew my mind. I was like, Caedmon's Call didn't think there was an audience for Caedmon's Call fans from who are my age? Like, and he said he and Todd Bragg had to convince them, like, no, we're still in the music scene. I think people will buy it.
But
they didn't know.
Down with PFR right now, like trying to talk through PFR.
Yeah.
All about it. You know what I mean? It's like, guys, there's this audience out there that is excited by what you're doing. They're excited by the new stuff, but there's new rules now that didn't exist in the 90s when there was a CCM scene to support you with physical outlets and media and stuff like that. Let's get you quickly up to speed on what the rules of engagement are with the audience as much as possible, but get your new music exciting, get your old music kind of back relevant again, because I honestly think especially some of that early PFR stuff is just for me, like, I think I've talked about my musical preference always being jangle stuff, like jangly guitars,
Yeah.
soft alternative rock, 90s music, like
Mhm.
REM's earlier days, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? The Gin Blossoms earlier days, that kind of like fast paced ascending chords, descending chords, but sort of melodically doing the inverse always of whatever the chord structure is, works fantastic in my ears. And I think that there's going to come a day here in the next 5 years where guitar driven music, especially shiny, shimmering guitar music, is back and popular again because people are sick of the Imagine Dragons swarm
Mhm.
and
Yep.
bass and a very spastic vocalist like a Ryan Tedder or an Imagine Dragons singer, like this kind of thing where it's just like so heavily reliant on somebody's crazy charisma. You go to enough shows where you watch those bands fail at singing, you know, to the level that they pulled off in the studio
Oh
through
yeah.
tips and
Right.
tricks like that. I think that you just want to go back to seeing a band like you saw in college play authentic sounding music. Oh, they
So you're
sound good.
saying that Under Oath's teeth may not be for the kids right now.
I we all saw that and witnessed that. All just
Indeed.
like, hey, you know what I could use right now is a bathroom break.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dying to find a portalet. And
Oh,
that's not the best reaction for a band to receive when they did a cool new song.
I don't know. I had that one drunk girl that was screaming every lyric to it, and I was like, "Wow, you are drunk."
But she was perfectly positioned for her passion for the song. We
She
will
was,
say
she
that.
All the
was-
words.
Yep.
It's good.
I mean, I will hand it to Under Oath. I give them a lot of
Sure.
credibility for trying.
Oh yeah.
They
Yeah.
will not stop trying, and they will probably fail 7 out of 10 times. But if they just manage to get that 3 out of 10 once every 2, 3 years to keep them
Right.
keep the audience interested and like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Like when they came out with the Erase Me single and they were swearing, I'm like, yeah, it's gimmick. Music's not that bad.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's actually
Yeah.
kind of relative
Yeah.
to I'm separating myself from wanting them to sound like 2007 Under Oath. This is not bad music. It's doable. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Jason, can I ask you, and I will tell you before I ask you, yesterday or the day before, I sat down and listened to the entire Drawn Onward album because it's up there on SoundCloud, right?
Holy
So I'm curious, given your description of the lens of gratefulness and whatnot, can you tell me what you're grateful for about your experience with that project?
yeah, great question. Wow, I didn't think we'd go there.
Welcome to A Pickle Home Companion.
That's right.
That's a legend of Brock Titus right there.
Appreciate that deep dive. What a great question. So that all happened on the tail end of what my band Average, they were called Average. We used to play in the Christian music scene in Colorado a lot. And when you graduate from high school and then you go into college and people start going to Wheaton in Illinois and people start going to Boulder and I went up to Fort Collins, we all separated. It was our last moment together. Like some people have their last moment together from their high school era that feels distinctly and nostalgically like high school. Some people have that a lot later on after high school is over. For me, that record sounds like a lot of ambition to sound authentically like ourselves. There was no sense when I listened to that record of trying to be anything that was popular, anything that was of the time. My inspirations and the band's inspiration were literally Game Face, Shades Apart, River City High. You talk about those three bands today in 2024, and there's a big fat from most people. You know what I mean? And I'm really proud of that legacy of the music being adjacent to that type of stuff because it feels like we listened to all this punk rock music coming up in middle school. We played with all these punk bands. We played with all these hardcore bands. In 2003, when we made that record, everybody around us was getting into post-hardcore, screamo, Fear Before the March of Flames. A lot of stuff in Colorado was getting and leaning into spazcore, Blood Brothers, that kind of music where people were like hurting each other on stage, like viscerally hurting each other. And we were like, you know what? We want to sound like a good trio who writes songs that are thoughtful, that are kind of interesting, that may not get us on the best shows, but whenever those guys are playing, they're kind of just doing what the music is that they prefer to play after all these years. Because when you're a teenager and you've played in a band for 7 years, the same three guys, you feel like you're a veteran. You feel like, man, I've been through it, bro. We played with, the Frady Cats and Fire and Frenzy and
Yes.
whatever, Smiley Kids. We did all that back in the old days. And now here we are playing with the Fray and Fear Before the March, all these bands now, but we're just going to play the kind of music that we like. And I think that as you get toward the end of that album, I wrote a song about my dad dying when I was 14. And that experience and what that was like for me and how it shaped me and the dreams that I would have in the consequent years going into college about, hey, just I'm going to, in this dream, have a conversation with my dad. But it wasn't ever saying things like, I miss you. And I really wish that, like things hadn't turned out the way that they did. It was like just, my dad and I are going to pick up something really quick from the grocery store. That's like the dream you start to have when you lose somebody at that age. Or I think when you experience loss at all, you get to a point of healing where it's not trauma, it's not scary, it's not deliberately waking up in a cold sweat. It's just like when you get to dream about having a normal day with the person that you lost, that you loved, it's a pretty special thing to wake up from. You kind of don't want that dream to end. So I think if I was to be proud of anything from that record, it was the sound of it doesn't sound like anything from the era. And the last song on it is still, I think, like my wife still listens to it and tears up. So I think that's the answer. Don't go listening though.
Too late. I've heard the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, that last song was great. It was I don't know. It reminded me for having no connection, obviously, to the band. I wasn't there when you guys were playing. But there was something about the recording that seemed like it authentically captured who you folks were at that time. And as you describe it, it seems like that was a good place. And it seems like you guys were kind of putting it in amber, putting the mosquito in amber for later recreation, reconstruction into a dinosaur.
I don't feel embarrassed about it. And it's typical of my personality, kind of like just to kind of wrap up here with you guys about Furnace Fest. Like there are these beautiful seasons where we all get to share these experiences together. And I don't know who's going to be involved or how long they're going to be in my lifetime for or why. But I'm richly appreciative of them and the connection that we all share together when we're experiencing them, like that band was. And sometimes those things have a way of lingering. The drummer and I were at Furnace Fest together. I've known him since I was born. We share a lifelong journey as friends and best friends and my best man in my wedding. And I'm going with them to the Stanley Hotel on Monday. These things kind of can have an enduring impact, or they can have a very short term but highly resonant frequency with everybody who got to experience it. And then I'm okay with moving on past it. I'm okay with not trying to get the band back together to play another show. I'm okay with not going back to Furnace Fest next year and starting this whole crazy train all over again. I'm okay with it being not parenthetical, but brackets. Like, you know what I mean? Like on each side going, that was good. That was really what we did there. I don't want to go back and scrape the bottom of the barrel for new inspiration and ideas and ways to be relevant. I put a lot of effort and thought into going out with a bang this year at Furnace Fest, surprising and delighting the audience with something that they could never get any other way, like these test pressings, for quite frankly a fairly reasonable cost, and more importantly, a very empathetic reason to support complete strangers in Haiti will never know. You know what I mean? And we all as a community got to show our true colors of. I had a lot of people come up to me at the booth that we were selling test pressings and offer more money than was being asked of them for a test pressing, because they knew it was going to a good cause and charity. And they knew that if they tried to find that record on eBay, it would have gone for $750 for a August Burns Red test pressing or whatever. So to get to, for a very brief moment, share all of that with everybody, and then to think about like them announcing Furnace Fest 2025, I'm okay with just moving on. You know what I mean? I'm okay. That's not my home base. I'm sitting right now in my home base, literally, both emotionally and physically. This world that I've come back to is very secure and wonderful, and I'm delighted with it, with my family that I live with, and these silly projects I get to be involved with. I don't need to go back to that thing and hope that the chariot reunites. You know what I'm saying? It's cool if they do, and it's cool for the audience who just would get more than amped about that announcement being true.
Sure.
I want that for them. I want them to feel value behind that. I want you guys, however, in whatever capacity, to continue to make meaning and community with each other and celebrate each other with your failure puddles out in the parking lot by the car.
Reese Roper, baby.
That's right.
The Reese Roper coming up and just like giving you guys a hug and saying, hey, by the way, you think I'm Reese Roper from Five Iron Frenzy? Turns out I'm one of you.
Right.
We're all
Right.
here surprised together that
Right.
this is even happening, that there's this cornerstone 2.0 version of togetherness and community that's just weirdly popping up out of the blue. I got to ask you, Kevin, what's going on with the Blenderhead poster behind you? What is
So that is actually an album promo flat from 1990, would be 94, 95.
Yeah.
That I snagged off the wall of a Christian bookstore when I was in high school.
Good. I've got a lot of those myself, completely.
Yep.
I still have the value packs, both value packs, the smaller orange one and then the larger jalapeno one. I've got all those.
Nice.
I did the same thing. The Squad Bombs thing as well.
Yep. Yeah, and so for Billy Power to say nobody cares, I mean, I've had that for what, 30 years now, and it's hanging up on my wall still. So
honestly, like I would have asked you for it had I not gotten the original illustrator to go back and touch it up, his original painting. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
That is
It's cool. It's so cool that you have that, and it's so cool for somebody to just encounter that. Probably they might not come into your office all that often, but they might look at it like they do with my office. My office changes every month to fit in. So my next theme will probably be my favorite reissues on vinyl from the year 2024, because there have been a lot of really good ones, quite frankly. Proof that the Youth Are Revolting is probably my favorite one, if I'm being honest.
So good.
And that was a community effort. That was one of those things that you got a bunch of people to help out with in every way possible, including just somebody I don't even know the name of, who did all the typing of every single name that was in the thank yous or the audience participation. So, yeah, just a lot of really fun ways that I've tried to make Unoriginal vinyl feel like a community effort in as much as possible. I knew from the get-go that it wasn't going to be about me and what my aspirations or ambitions were for it. I knew it was going to feel like I want to bring as many people in on this as possible, so that there are subject matter experts contributing essays or sentiments from the vinyl community, from the social media community, from everywhere, for far corners of the earth, talking about these releases as if there's something to someone. You know what I mean? So I think that box set that's coming out is going to really represent that. It's going to be really representative of a surprising amount of stuff to pour over as a fan, like the essay was with Indie Vision Music, but on an actual scale people care about, because nobody really cares about what I have to say. If they read it, I'm happy about that, but I wrote it intentionally long to prime people for what's coming. Like, it's going to be a lot of stuff to read in that box set, which is kind of fun.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
The whole joy of the box set for me is the booklet that's coming with it. You know what I mean?
So. Let me take issue just and say I did enjoy reading it, and I was reading it for the fact that it was about Unoriginal vinyl. So I may be in the minority, but know that it was appreciated.
I mean, definitely appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. And I just also really, more than anything, wanted Brandon to be happy. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that I have that much of a voice in the scene, but if I do have any voice that I can lend to giving him and his website a little bit of traffic, that guy could use a boost right now, man. Love him to death and love what he's contributed to the scene. And I wanted for him to feel really, really good about like a bunch of people talking about his website.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been anybody. I could have done it in any format. Could have done a podcast again or something like that. But I really wanted it to be statistically significant that people are spending fucking 45 minutes on his website. You know?
Yeah, right. Well, and with your platform and just the stuff you put out, like I think it hit the mark. So for him.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely, at least in my mind, accomplish, like, you have a brand that's credible. So like you said, if it says Unoriginal vinyl, I'm going to give it a look, period. Like, you know, the initial connection was honestly for me through Furnace Fest and the stuff from the first one. But now it's like, oh, if you're doing it, I'm going to look into it. And but then, like, I know what your name is. So it's a brand, but there's people to the brand. So like somehow you've established, to me, in my mind, you've established credibility in that way, but then also humanized it. Like Tim West, they live near me, Tim and Lauren West, like not far from here. So like going to like being at Furnace Fest and saying, oh, those are your unoriginal vinyl people, not just because of the necklace, but I recognize them from years of that is different for a company.
Well, yeah, and if you've been around long enough, Tim and I have been trading Squad 50 Bombs Over Broadway posters and Living Sacrifice posters with each other for more than a decade now as fans of this style of music. And trust me, it was not popular to talk about this stuff in 2013. You know what I mean?
No.
But we were still like a really kind of huddled mass together, trying to keep warm by a very dim fire about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so those are trustworthy, ethos, credible, pathos people within our scene who have a voice in this scene and a voice in Unoriginal Vinyl now. And people who come into the scene new and they're like, well, who's this guy? Who's this doing? What are they doing? I got no time for it. I couldn't care less. I'm not part of that drama ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Interested. So it's just a fun group of people. And I'm really grateful to you guys for just getting to hang out and talk about this wild stuff we're doing. So I do got to run to dinner, but I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome. And we'll definitely have to have you come back on just to talk about some more stuff down the road for sure.
Talk more about you guys next time. I don't talk as much about myself because
next time I have to ask about an Insider's reissue just because of our overlords and who we work for, you know.
Joe makes us.
Yeah, great.
And let's get into the vinyl cleaning regimen. Let's find out how we work on that stuff.
Oh yes, I need to know.
Good stuff. All right. Hey, thanks guys so much.
Hey,
thanks.
Cheers. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Yep. See ya.
Oh man. Props for coming on. That was a great conversation. I really enjoyed just listening. And just thinking about, you know, how that gratefulness and the community that we kind of grew up in, and just the whole like mixtape culture, and just his ethos is the way his brain works is what got me into music too. Is just the whole, you want to be grateful for the music and the physical media that you're holding and reading. So it's a cool. It was just cool for me to listen, and I hope that he puts out a podcast at some point because I definitely subscribe.
The Unoriginal Vinyl Cast. Yeah.
So speaking of physical media, I know Brock and I have kind of texted back and forth just pictures of like random stuff I've been coming across, putting my CDs in order while I was looking for a specific album that I cannot find. Going through all of these like compilation CDs and stuff like that, like I've got tons of them that, you know, either came free with like an order somewhere, or, you know, there was somebody handing them out at like a show I was at, or they, you know, came with a magazine. And I, you know, some of them I've listened to, some of them I haven't, but I literally have like hundreds of these compilation albums. I was thinking once I get everything kind of in order, it might be fun to pick one compilation album a week and just kind of pick, okay, what is the standout track on this?
Oh, that would be a lot of
like
fun.
Best track on the comp sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm all in for this.
Love it.
I'd be down with that.
Yeah. All right. That was fun.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's a podcast I would listen to. Like, how cool is that?
He mentioned how much time it would take to read his interview. I was like, if you listen to our Furnace Fest episodes, we're way uneven still.
Can we get a transcription of that and just post it up somewhere?
So if he took the time for that, like that's a lot longer than reading the Indie Vision.
Do you think Indie Vision would be interested in posting the transcripts of our Furnace Fest episodes?
I have no idea, but
we'll find out.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.